If he sends reinforcements everywhere, he will everywhere be weak. Sun Tzu, Art of War. This was heavy. Now yesterday, the co-founders of Sketch released a public announcement around trimming down their entire team as a measure to help them survive the current economic landscape. In quotes, "We've taken the difficult decision to reduce our team by just over 80 people. This will most likely impact operations and marketing." Now, according to LinkedIn, there are 258 employees at Sketch, which means 80 is 31% of the entire organization. Now, from what it seems, the founders have been quite transparent with this decision and have considered compensation packages that includes financial support, work equipment, and references for everyone that will be leaving. It's a really tough call in a really tough time. Now, in the end, I hope it's not too difficult for their members to find a new role, mainly because I genuinely think that the work that they produce is world class. Now, if there are any sketches that are watching this video, feel free to reach out to me for whatever reason. I'd be more than happy to lend a hand. Now, I want to share my thoughts on Sketch and open up a conversation with you in the comments. Now, for quick context, I was a dedicated sketcher in 2014, then converted to a Figma in 2017. Now, I believe the market is big enough for multiple players. I also like competition because it drives innovation, and I would love to continue seeing Sketch doing their thing, even though I'm a Figmate, I teach Figma, and I have my own Figma course, but I genuinely believe treading water isn't the best tactic for Sketch. And I've broken up my thoughts into three key parts: considerations, capital preservation, and the ultimate chase. Now, most of us should know the story behind Sketch. Now, to keep it short and sweet, Sketch was the Figma throughout 2014 to 2018-ish. I can't say they have lost the race just yet because the race technically hasn't ended, since Sketch is still putting up a fight, so well done to them. Now, the Sketch team have done an incredible job on redefining the way UI design tools should be in the early days. Now, even to this day, just in September 2022, they are continuously releasing meticulous, very niche and specific updates to improve the design workflow. Now, I love the fact that they care about their customers, but I genuinely believe there's bigger fish to fry. Now, the biggest weakness with Sketch, in my opinion, is that their distribution model. It has been lacking ever since. Now, the decision to be Mac only has costed the company the ability to grow beyond Mac users. Now, according to Figma's most recent acquisition, the TAM, which is the total addressable market, is $20 billion. So if we assume there's a 50-50 split between Windows and Mac users in our market, that is 10 billion out the window, purely based on one decision. Now, this race sort of reminds me of Audio and Spotify. Now, Audio, which is Sketch in this context, was this beautifully designed streaming app that had futuristic features at the time. It was breaking barriers in terms of product decisions. However, they lost the battle to Spotify because they weren't able to keep up and compete on a strategic level. Whilst Audio was perfecting every pixel in the app, Spotify was going on a fundraising rampage, signing up content licenses left, right, and center, and forming major partnerships with companies like Coca-Cola, the Rolling Stones, and more to bring in more customers. Now, Spotify was prioritizing and doing everything they could and spending every dollar they had to trying to get every human being on the planet into the app. In a very similar context, Figma has that free tier for students and education. And in contrast, Sketch only made this move last month in September. Figma partners with Google to make Figma available for free on all school-related Chromebooks. And with Sketch, I'm not sure what they've done. Figma has raised $332 million, and Sketch, on the other hand, has only raised $20 million. Now, Figma also targets everyone with an internet connection. Sketch is only Mac. Now, I totally understand that our market is big enough for multiple players, but companies gain global domination when they are able to tap into the economies of scale, which means the cost of running the actual business becomes much cheaper as the number of users paying outweigh the cost of running the entire operation. So every new person that decides to use Figma, it actually makes it more expensive and harder for Sketch to hire greater talent and build industry-leading product because Figma has a much larger market with more influence to bring in more capital to deploy into compounding their success. In other words, it gets easier and easier for Figma to win and harder for Sketch to catch up. Capital preservation. Now there is so much going on in this world right now, and it only makes sense for Sketch to try preserve their cash to make sure they are able to weather the storm. Now, according to LinkedIn, there are no available roles. And according to the co-founders, marketing and operations are practically gone, which means there's really just the product team left. Now, according to their co-founders, it does seem the case. Now, this does make me think, what are the co-founders thinking? Which leads me on to the final point, the ultimate chase. Now, it's true, during economical downturns, companies are forced to make the hardest decisions. Debt, which is normally what pays for the party, is much more expensive now. Customers are also not willing to spend as much, which means companies really need to step on the brakes, reassess what they're doing, and make sure they are being mindful and intentful about how they will continue moving the company forward. They also need to make sure that every dollar spent really does count. So in this case of Sketch, here's what I think is happening. Sketch knows on the surface level that competing with Figma head to head in every department is going to be extremely difficult and expensive, especially after the Adobe acquisition. So instead of spreading themselves too thin across all the different departments, they had to make the hardest decision ever to keep the company alive. It seems as though they plan to focus all their attention in one area, which is the product team. Now, I think this is a good move, as Sketch needs to form some sort of differentiation to Figma before they start accelerating their marketing initiatives again. Now, this goes back to the quote by Sun Tzu from Art of War. If he sends reinforcements everywhere, he will everywhere be weak. So Sketch is forced to pick the right battles right now. Once again, even though I'm a sketcher turned Figmate with my own Figma Masterclass, I still like to see competition as it does drive innovation. So here's what I hope Sketch is doing from most to least preferred. First, broaden your market. I know the Sketch co-founders claim that Sketch solves a different set of problems to Figma, but at a minimum, please bring out a Windows application. If not, at least invest in the future and enable a full Sketch experience all in the browser. This is a major technological investment, and I believe it would suck up all the resources within Sketch, but short-term pain, long-term gain. In the end, Sketch should really consider opening up their user base, as design tools heavily depend on the network effect. Now, the second is just keep Sketch surviving. Now, I do hope this isn't the case. Just surviving works for lifestyle businesses, but for Sketch, it's a different story. You can't just survive in such a competitive industry and on the $20 million they raised back in 2019. If you eventually run out of money and you can't seem to showcase to investors that you are growing, it gets harder to raise more capital. So I do hope that Sketch isn't going to continue just making small cosmetic and feature updates to their platform, but really consider what can they do now with such focus on the product to catch up in this race. And last but not least, pivot Sketch. This would be really hard to watch, but anything can happen. Framer pivoted to website building, Envision pivoted to whiteboarding. Now, I don't think this would happen, as I've read Sketch does have some strong clients on board, including Apple's design team. However, there is no guarantee that their biggest clients will stick around. And in the end, tools are just tools. It is a possibility that we can't rule out. So, what do you think will happen to Sketch? Now, let me know in the comments below. And if you are still hungry for more knowledge and insights into design and product strategies, make sure to check out this video, and I'll see you very soon.